Right now, look who's standing under the Republican mistletoe. The numbers just keep getting better for one Donald Trump. So what, if anything, can the GOP do here to save their party from the Donald? And then a whole lot of movement against gun violence. Suspect it is in Congress. Now, we've got the latest, and we also ask how and will, if at all, guns be an issue in the 2016 race. Then later, Giants worries. Odell Beckham suspended here for Sunday's must-win game against Minnesota. Was that the right call? This as questions swirl around his coach. If the G-men miss the playoffs again, is it time for Coach Coughlin to go? Good evening and welcome to RFL. A little bit of everything here tonight. Thank you for joining us. I'm Richard French. We got a lot to cover in the next 60 minutes, but we begin with a man waiting under the GOP mistletoe this Christmas, none other than Donald Trump. Now, forget about his vulgar comments about Hillary Clinton this week. Like his supporters have 2 days before Christmas and 40 days before the Iowa caucus, his lead in the GOP primary is growing. I'm not making this up. The latest CNN poll numbers just out today gives Trump a 21-point margin nationally over Ted Cruz, not that that's a lot better, and a 29-point lead over Rubio and Carson. And look at the names on the second page of the poll. Trump's up 34 over Christie and Jeb Bush. He's sitting at 3%. Who would have ever imagined that as we approach the end of the calendar year? So, why is Trump so popular with so many voters? Now, we've been asking that question for months here, and I'm still waiting for the compelling answer. And there's a new piece in Salon which may speak to it. They call Trump and the article of an insane white cult. They're quoted former presidential candidate Pat Buchanan, and he gives his theory to explain the Donald's popularity. Again, this is Pat speaking here, quote, "The media have played right into Trump's hands. They constantly denounce him as grossly insensitive, yet when they demand he apologize, Trump doubles down. And when they demand that Republicans repudiate him, the GOP base replies. Who are you to tell us whom we may nominate? You're not friends, you're not going to vote for us, and the names you call Trump bigot, racist, xenophobe, sexist, they're the names you call us. Nothing but cuss words that a corrupt establishment uses on those it most detests," end quote. So, how big a problem is Trump for the GOP, and what, if anything, can the party do about it, and what maybe do they have to throw their arms around him? For answers to these questions, we're going to turn to our panelists tonight. Good friend who's rejoined us, Tom Doherty, Republican strategist, partner in Mercury Media, former advisor to New York Governor George Pataki, now presidential candidate, and a Giant and a Ranger fan. We'll get into that. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. Mark Furnish, she slides over from our legal panel tonight. We got a legal question to get into, but he's never short on opinions on anything. He's a professor at Brooklyn Law, not only an opinion conservative, but he's also argued before the U.S. Supreme Court. One of the questions we'll talk about is whether it's time that we have cameras in more courts, let alone the highest one. All right, way to hold back. And Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. All right, Tom, everyone's wrestling with this, what to do about Trump. Everyone figured he'd flame out by now. Andrew brought up yesterday, you go back 4, 8, 12, 16 years ago, a lot of people were leading that faded by the end. But every piece of baggage has been thrown at him. It seems that people say they don't care. They just like him because he's not establishment. You heard Buchanan's theory to explain his popularity. Do you buy it?
I buy his popularity within my party, unfortunately. There clearly is a group of Republicans who are just fed up with the status quo. They don't like, quote unquote, normal, rational Republicans. And so I don't like your polling because polling at a national level at this point is irrelevant. You really need to go within individual states, because you're going to have an Iowa caucus, you're going to have New Hampshire. His New Hampshire number, I think, today was down to 21, and a number of people starting to move up a little bit. So we're really not going to know what happens. If he were to lose Iowa to Cruz, that will sort of be a jab in the neck. If he goes into New Hampshire, which I think is going to happen, I think we will see something different happen in New Hampshire, because New Hampshire, I don't think, with independent voters voting there, is going to be, this rosy picture that we see. That said, because of what I've heard from my Republican base throughout the country, there's no doubt in my mind that we could nominate either Donald Trump or Ted Cruz this year.
we're going to get to what the Republicans may want to do about it. We've talked about a third-party candidate. We've talked about a broker convention. We've talked about all these things. Dominic, do you have a signpost where this is real? Does he have to win either Iowa or New Hampshire? Or does it not matter because he'll be viable in South Carolina? He'll be a player come Super Tuesday. Does he have to do good in the first two, at least known races, whether a caucus or a primary?
Yes, because when you're the clear front runner, it's all about building momentum. And Rich, as you well know, and if he does not build momentum, maybe he can get a pass out of Iowa, maybe, I don't know, but he may do well there as well. He needs to do well in both. And if he does well in both, it may be over before this thing.
Something that I wanted to point out. So I was on a national radio show on Friday with somebody very close to the National Tea Party, right? And we wound up making a bet because she said something that was extremely outrageous. And it says to me that many in that camp are just delusional. She said to me, because I was mentioning that there is no way that Trump could win the White House with his Hispanic numbers where they are. You just can't do it. She said that he is going to win the Hispanic vote and do better among African Americans than any Republican candidate ever. And she was citing these numbers to me because she said she was talking to somebody on a playground, a parent in San Diego where she lives, and this Hispanic family loves Trump. And that's what she's basing it on. And what they don't get, and what I tried to ask them is, where are you getting 270 electoral votes? Show me the map of how Donald Trump wins 270 electoral votes.
What do they think of you in that? You got your Republican bona fides. Nobody's going to debate that. Do they look at people that are in a Bush, in a Kasich camp, in a Rubio camp as not real Republicans anymore? Right. Or do they not think of themselves as Republicans and they think the establishment might as well be Democrats?
Yeah, that's how they view it. They view any reasonable Republican, which I consider myself reasonable, that we have sold out and that they are the true Republican believers. Now, what I throw back at them is you're so much the true believers, 3 million of you, according to you, did not vote for Mitt Romney 3 years ago. So they want to have it both ways. And the point is that, look, the facts are very simple. They gave us candidates in Nevada, Delaware, Missouri, Indiana, Colorado, Buck in Colorado, and there's one other that I'm missing. Races that we should have elected sane Republican U.S. Senate candidates, we lost by running Tea Party candidates. And now, if you think we're going to do that in a national election and have a different outcome, you're crazy.
But after the 2008 and the 2012 cycles, one of the big complaints from a lot of Republicans was, well, we didn't nominate a true conservative. We nominated McCain, we nominated Romney, and that's why we lost.
Okay.
Do we have to destroy this village in order to save it mentality among the GOP?
I think, Andrew, you hit the nail on the head. We do. Because, see, everything can't just be looked backwards. Let's go back to 2008. Let's be fair about it, right? George Bush, 2 wars, country was just done with wars, et cetera, et cetera. The Republican brand was not doing well because of the wars. And let's not forget, we had a major financial collapse in October of that election cycle, okay? So to say that John McCain was not a good candidate, there was a lot of factors there. Let's go to 2012, Mitt Romney. If Mitt Romney had run as a true Mitt Romney, governor of Massachusetts, right? Mitt Romney would have done a lot better. Mitt Romney got dragged through 25 debates, having to go after Kaine, Santorum, Newt Gingrich, kept getting dragged to the right, and it was all the right issues that killed him in the election.
The nomination in 2012 if he had run more as a centrist, and that's one of the problems the party faces right now.
That's the problem in my party.
If it's Trump, he's not going to get to 270 if he's the nominee. I don't think Ted Cruz can get to 270.
Who's that?
Trump, and here's why. Because all the conventional rules, the conventional playbook goes out the window when you're dealing with Donald Trump. I don't think you can think of blacks or Hispanics as a monolithic vote block. It's my instinct that a very, very significant number of those people will look up to Trump and admire him because in many ways he epitomizes the American dream. He epitomizes a robust capitalism, which is what many people without money really want. They want to be rich.
I hear you, but you're leaving one thing out, which is this is still being defined in a Republican primary prism.
Correct. I don't think you can put any stock in these numbers now. It's too early anyway.
Can you imagine how he will be demonized with the hundreds of millions of dollars that will be available at the Clinton disposal in terms of defining.
He's been vetted for 20, 30 years.
In a
Every
primary, but not a
every piece
general.
of dirt about him is out there in the press, and he'll revel in the dirt.
But forget the dirt. At some point, the facts are going to matter. His tax plan that leaves the federal government with a 22%. I mean,
he has no plan. And people don't care. They're almost in defiance of the
Do you know
lack of a
someone who
plan.
likes Trump? Do you know people? Have you spoken to people who like Trump who vote for him?
My wife likes him, paradoxically. And if it were me and I had to choose, I'm not a Clinton voter. There's no way. I won't vote for Cruz because he's a maniac religiously. I would vote for Donald Trump ahead of Ted Cruz or Hillary Clinton. I would do it.
Oh,
and it's
my God.
remarkable to me that with the number of
Even though
candidates
you
on-
intellectually know the insanity of building the
here's what
wall
I-
makes
here's-
no sense. The tax plan is completely
But
insane.
I think that
here.
you can't take anything he says at face value. This is
how
life
can you vote for
imitating
somebody if you don't
artlessness
know what the heck
because
you're
he will
getting?
hire competent people to do the nuts and bolts, and he will
You
figure
produced
out
the
it,
commercial.
and he will brand it. That's what he will do.
And he'll disgrace the presidency.
Well,
He'll
I mean,
disgrace the
the
presidency.
the presidency
No, I mean, you
at this
can't,
point
you can't
is-
be talking
is
about Hillary
disgrace
going to the
proof.
bathroom and getting schlonged and John
No,
McCain's
schlong
not
is
here.
just Yiddish.
Oh,
Come
come on. I'm
And by the way,
52 and I
he's
know
not
what
in,
it means.
he's not in the tribe, so let's. He doesn't get the pass.
John
Yeah.
McCain's
So
not a
who's the
hero.
realistic mainstream alternative who has to do well in New Hampshire if they're going to wind up dethroning Donald Trump? Cruz is going to win Iowa. Trump's probably going
What's
to come
wrong with
second.
Rubio? Nobody likes him.
But can Rubio actually win in or score well enough in New Hampshire? Is it Chris Christie? Is it Kasich? And can they actually get the momentum?
Kasich's done.
Bush?
If you look at the numbers right now, there are two things happening outside, right? One, inside of New Hampshire, is Chris Christie is on a dramatic rise in New Hampshire, okay? In South Carolina, where George W. Bush is very, very popular and where Graham supporters are flocking to Jeb Bush, a lot is happening. So a lot will happen in New Hampshire.
But Christie is just Trump light, right? He has the misfortune of dealing with Trump in this election.
I don't think that's fair to Christie.
No.
I don't think that's
He's
fair to
intellectually superior to Trump, but his allure is his magnetism and his outspokenness, and Trump beats him hands down in that regard.
But at some point, facts have to matter
No,
a
they
little
don't.
bit.
I mean, this is
No,
this
no,
is
no,
all
they don't.
entertainment. They don't have to matter.
You know
We'd like
why
to
they,
think they do.
you know why they don't have to matter? Folks are tired, no offense, Tom, they're tired of the traditional
that's
Democrats and Republicans, yap, and not delivering on
But you know what? You know what I
counts.
hear you.
Just
I
gonna
hear
be-
how
it's just
long
gonna be
we
great
have now.
entertainment. People are
They
tired.
still care about who's going to have the
But wait
button
a
on
second,
the.
Richard.
That's
Don't let
true.
him get away with that. How can you make that comment when the person
It's
who's
real
going
easy.
Okay, and so why is Hillary
I'll tell you
Clinton?
one better.
Why is Hillary Clinton going to be the nominee of your party?
Because
Wait,
by
wait,
default,
what do
she
you mean?
coordinated her.
No,
What do
but
you mean my
so
party?
you're telling me that Democrats and Republicans are sick of the status quo, et cetera, and yet they're going to nominate Hillary Clinton. Who's more part of the status quo than
Because
her?
nobody would chat. Well, Sanders, the guy who thinks that terrorism is caused by climate
I mean, he's not going to beat her,
At
though.
the nomination. But I just want to say this. What your friend predicted, Richard, I know it's nuts. Trump is going to do much better with black voters and Latino voters than you think.
That's what I was saying.
If you look at something that Chris Matthews did on him just last night, what's her name, Omarosa?
Yeah.
And the boxer, Mike Tyson. Those were two of the main characters praising Trump. I know we may
One of
talk
them
about Mike
works for him,
Tyson.
but okay.
Right,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you, Trump has a great relationship with the rappers. A lot of the
Although
rappers
even
look
they
up
are
to
starting
him.
to turn on him, including
Russell
Yeah,
Simmons.
thank you. All right.
Russell was not a rapper. Russell is.
We're not going to get into the rap credibility
Okay,
of Russell
okay,
Simmons.
all right.
When we come back here, different issue, and maybe not even an issue on the campaign trail, but interesting developments just in the last week. The latest on a push to prevent gun violence. A new study shows here moves by Democratic governors and also the NBA all playing into this narrative. And again, how, if at all, will this be an issue in 2016? And if it is, who will win and lose as a consequence?